If you're over 60, let me ask you something honestly. The fish you ate last week, the one you believed was healthy, did you ever stop to ask what it's actually doing inside your body? Not how it tastes, not how easy it is to cook, but what it does to your brain, your blood vessels, your joints, quietly, meal after meal. I've seen this pattern too many times to ignore it. Someone comes in worried about memory slipping, another about stiff joints that won't calm down, another after a small stroke that came out of nowhere. And when we trace it back, it's not always sugar, not always red meat. Very often, as a keenan, it's fish. Fish that looks clean, fish that's ordered in restaurants every day, fish that's advertised as heart healthy, but inside, it's loading the body with mercury, inflammatory fats and toxins, an older system no longer clears well. I'm Dr. Reid, and my job isn't to scare you. It's to tell you what actually matters after 60, not what sounded healthy at 40. Because some fish don't hurt you immediately. They build pressure slowly, in the arteries, in the brain, in the joints, until one morning things don't feel the same anymore. Tonight, I'm going to show you 4 fish you should never touch after 60, no matter how popular they are, and 4 fish you should be eating regularly because they actually protect your brain, circulation, and independence. Stay with me, because one fish on the worst list surprises almost everyone, and one on the best list is far safer than people realize. And if you want clear, senior-specific health guidance like this, subscribe now and turn on the bell. This channel is built for people who still want control over their health, not guesses. Let's start. Worst fish number 4. Imported catfish. Imported catfish is one of the easiest fish for seniors to misjudge. It doesn't raise red flags, it doesn't smell strong, it doesn't look oily or heavy. It simply blends into the idea of a safe, mild protein. And that's exactly why it causes trouble after 60. Most imported catfish comes from large-scale overseas fish farms operating under conditions very different from what most people imagine. Fish are raised densely, often in water systems that recycle waste. In these environments, infection spreads quickly. To keep losses low, antibiotics and chemical treatments are used routinely. Those substances don't vanish before the fish is sold. Traces remain in the tissue and enter the body when the fish is eaten. In younger adults, the body can sometimes compensate. After 60, that margin shrinks. Liver detoxification slows. Kidney filtration becomes less efficient. What used to pass through quietly now lingers longer, contributing to low-grade inflammation that affects joints, blood vessels, and immune balance. There's another layer most people never hear about. Imported catfish are typically fed low-cost, grain-heavy feed rather than a natural aquatic diet. This produces a fat profile dominated by omega-6 fats with almost no balancing omega-3s. In an older body, that imbalance matters. Excess omega-6 fuels inflammatory pathways already active in arthritis, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic stress. Instead of calming the system, it quietly pushes it in the wrong direction. Nutritionally, the trade-off isn't worth it. Imported catfish offers minimal omega-3s, weak antioxidant support, and very little in terms of minerals that protect the brain or circulation. It fills the plate, but it doesn't protect the body. Over time, repeated exposure adds burden without benefit. This is why imported catfish is risky in a way that's hard to notice. It doesn't cause an immediate reaction. There's no warning sign after the meal. The effect is cumulative. To be precise, catfish itself is not the issue. U.S.-raised catfish follows strict safety and feed regulations and is a completely different product. But if the label says imported or doesn't clearly state U.S. origin, that fish is not a smart choice for anyone over 60. And next is a fish many seniors eat weekly, not realizing it delivers something far more dangerous directly to the brain. Worst fish number 3, tuna. Tuna is one of the most trusted foods in the senior diet. It shows up in sandwiches, salads, casseroles, and quick dinners. It's lean, familiar, and often recommended as a heart-healthy protein. That reputation is exactly why tuna becomes a problem after 60. The issue isn't fat. It isn't calories. It's mercury. And not in dramatic doses, but in small amounts that add up quietly. Tuna sits high in the ocean food chain. It feeds on smaller fish, and over years of life, it accumulates mercury in its muscle tissue. When you eat tuna, that mercury doesn't simply pass through. It binds to proteins and builds up inside the body, especially in the brain and nervous system. After 60, the body's ability to clear heavy metals declines. Detox pathways slow. The blood-brain barrier becomes more vulnerable. What once might have been tolerated now starts to interfere with nerve signaling, memory formation, and mood regulation. This is why mercury exposure in older adults often doesn't look dramatic at first. It looks like subtle changes, slight forgetfulness, mental fog, tingling in the hands, sleep that feels lighter and less restorative, mood shifts that don't seem to have a clear cause. These symptoms are frequently brushed off as just part of getting older, when in reality they can be linked to repeated mercury exposure from foods eaten every week. Even canned tuna isn't harmless. While light tuna contains less mercury than albacore or big eye, it's often eaten far more frequently. A small amount, consumed again and again, creates steady accumulation. And because tuna feels like a safe default food, many seniors eat it without limits. Mercury doesn't only affect the brain. It stresses blood vessels, disrupts heart rhythm signaling, and increases oxidative damage inside arteries. For someone already managing blood pressure or circulation issues, that added stress matters. This doesn't mean tuna is poison. It means it's not a daily or even weekly food after 60. Occasional light tuna, eaten sparingly, may be tolerated. Regular tuna, especially albacore, white tuna, or restaurant tuna steaks, is not worth the long-term risk. And the most dangerous part is this. Most people never connect the symptoms to the fish. Next is a fish often ordered at restaurants, praised for its texture and flavor, yet carries a risk profile even worse than tuna when it comes to mercury exposure. Number 2, swordfish. Swordfish is often seen as a premium choice. It shows up on restaurant menus, grilled and plated like a luxury protein. Thick cut, mild flavor, high price. For many people over 60, that presentation creates a powerful assumption. If it's expensive and served at good restaurants, it must be healthy. That assumption is exactly what makes swordfish dangerous. Swordfish is one of the largest predatory fish in the ocean. It lives long, feeds high on the food chain, and accumulates mercury at levels that are among the highest of any fish commonly eaten. This isn't speculation. It's why swordfish appears on official "do not eat" or "eat rarely" advisories for vulnerable groups. Mercury exposure from swordfish isn't subtle. It's concentrated. One serving can deliver more mercury than several servings of smaller fish combined. And unlike younger bodies, a body over 60 clears mercury more slowly. The metal stays in circulation longer, embeds more deeply in tissues, and places direct stress on the nervous system. In older adults, mercury toxicity often presents in ways that are easy to misinterpret. Unsteady balance, hand tremors, visual disturbances, slower reaction time, difficulty concentrating in noisy environments. These signs can look like normal aging, inner ear problems, or even anxiety. But mercury interferes directly with nerve conduction and brain signaling, particularly in regions responsible for coordination and executive function. Swordfish also places strain on the cardiovascular system. Mercury damages the lining of blood vessels, increases oxidative stress, and disrupts normal heart rhythm signaling. For someone already managing high blood pressure or vascular stiffness, this added burden increases stroke and heart risk over time. What makes swordfish especially deceptive is frequency. Most people don't eat it daily. They eat it occasionally. Dinners out, celebrations, vacations. But because the mercury dose is so high per serving, even occasional intake can push total exposure into a harmful range, especially when combined with other mercury-containing fish like tuna. There is no preparation method that makes swordfish safer. Grilling doesn't remove mercury. Searing doesn't reduce toxicity. Choosing fresh or wild doesn't change the risk. After 60, Swordfish simply does not offer a benefit that justifies its neurological and vascular cost. And next is the fish that health agencies are most explicit about, the one that doesn't come with a warning label at the seafood counter, but absolutely should. Worst fish number one, king mackerel. King mackerel is not just unhealthy for people over 60, it is one of the few fish that health authorities are clear about. This one should not be eaten at all, yet many seniors still do, often without realizing it. The danger starts with confusion. King mackerel is frequently sold or served under the simple name mackerel. On menus, it looks similar to safer varieties. At the seafood counter, it doesn't come with a warning sign. And because mackerel is often praised for omega-3s, people assume all types are beneficial. That assumption is wrong. King mackerel is a large, long-lived predatory fish. It sits high on the marine food chain, feeding on smaller fish year after year. With every meal, it accumulates mercury. Over time, that mercury concentrates in its flesh at levels far higher than most commonly eaten fish. This is why the FDA and EPA place king mackerel on their do not eat list for older adults. For someone over 60, mercury from king mackerel doesn't just pass through the body. Detox pathways slow with age. Liver and kidney clearance becomes less efficient. Mercury stays in circulation longer, penetrates deeper into tissues, and directly affects the brain and cardiovascular system. Neurologically, mercury disrupts communication between nerve cells. This can show up as memory lapses, irritability, tremors, numbness in the hands, or difficulty focusing. These symptoms are often mistaken for stress or normal aging, which delays recognition of the real cause. Cardiovascularly, mercury damages the inner lining of blood vessels. It increases oxidative stress, stiffens arteries, and interferes with electrical signaling in the heart. For seniors already managing blood pressure or circulation issues, this creates a dangerous compounding effect. What makes king mackerel especially risky is that even small amounts matter. This is not a moderation fish. One serving can push mercury exposure beyond safe limits for weeks. There is no safe cooking method. There is no safe frequency. There is no benefit that outweighs the risk. Other types of mackerel, such as Atlantic or Spanish mackerel, are entirely different. Smaller fish, lower mercury, and far safer. But king mackerel stands alone. After 60, this is the fish that should never make it onto your plate. And now that you know the four worst, it's time to shift focus. Because the right fish can do the opposite. Protect your brain, calm inflammation, and support long-term strength rather than quietly undermining it. This isn't about fear or restriction. It's about choosing fish that an older nervous system can actually handle. Same ocean, same category, completely different outcomes. The next four fish aren't trendy or exotic. They're simply the ones your body still knows how to use after 60. Let's look at the four best fish and why they work with your brain, your arteries, and your joints instead of against them. Number 4, Atlantic cod. Atlantic cod doesn't get much attention, and that's exactly why it belongs on this list. After 60, your body doesn't need aggressive nutrition. It needs clean, usable input that doesn't create extra metabolic work. Cod delivers that. This is a lean white fish with a protein profile your digestive system can process easily, even when stomach acid and enzyme output are lower than they used to be. That matters because poor protein breakdown after 60 often shows up as fatigue, inflammation, and muscle loss. Not immediately, but gradually. What makes cod especially valuable for seniors is what it doesn't carry. It sits low enough on the food chain to avoid mercury buildup. It doesn't overload the body with fats that require heavy bile production, and it doesn't introduce inflammatory residues that stress the vascular system. Instead, cod provides 3 quiet stabilizers the aging body relies on. First, vitamin B12, which supports nerve signaling and helps maintain steady cognition and balance. Many seniors with numbness, tingling, or mental fuzz are unknowingly borderline deficient, and cod supplies B12 in a form the body absorbs well. Second, selenium, a trace mineral critical for antioxidant defense. Selenium protects blood vessels from oxidative damage and supports thyroid balance. which indirectly affects circulation, energy, and temperature regulation. Third, clean amino acids that support muscle maintenance without spiking inflammation. This is especially important for seniors who want strength without joint flare-ups. Cod isn't a superfood. It's something better. It's dependable. Prepared gently, baked, poached, or lightly pan-cooked, Atlantic cod becomes a repair-friendly protein that supports the brain, steadies the nerves, and feeds muscle tissue without collateral damage. This is why I often call it a foundation fish. Not dramatic, not trendy, but when eaten regularly, it gives the aging body something it can finally relax around. And after 60, that kind of nutritional calm is powerful. Number 3, rainbow trout. Rainbow trout is what many people think they're getting when they order healthy fish. But unlike most popular options, trout actually delivers. For an older nervous system, this matters more than taste or trend. After 60, the goal is not maximum omega-3 at any cost. The goal is balance. Enough support to calm inflammation and protect blood vessels without tipping into toxicity or digestive strain. Rainbow trout sits in that sweet spot. It provides omega-3 fatty acids in a moderate, usable range, enough to support the brain and joints, but not so much that it overwhelms bile production or causes oxidative stress. This is important because excess fats, even good ones, can backfire in seniors when clearance slows. What really separates trout from riskier fish is mercury safety. Rainbow trout has consistently low mercury levels, even when eaten regularly. That makes it suitable not just as an occasional meal, but as part of a weekly routine. Something tuna and swordfish simply cannot offer after 60. From a vascular perspective, trout contributes potassium and magnesium, two minerals that help regulate blood pressure and vascular tone. These nutrients support smoother blood flow and reduce the pressure spikes that strain arteries over time. There's also a neurological advantage. Trout contains B-complex vitamins that support neurotransmitter function and nerve insulation. In practical terms, that means steadier energy, better balance, and fewer of the subtle nerve symptoms seniors often dismiss as just getting older. When prepared correctly, grilled gently, baked, or pan-seared without heavy sauces, trout becomes a low-inflammation, high-stability protein. This is why I often recommend it as a safe middle ground fish. It doesn't push the body. It doesn't challenge detox pathways. It doesn't demand recovery afterward. Instead, it quietly supports circulation, joints, and brain function, meal after meal. And for seniors, consistency without hidden cost is exactly what protects long-term independence. Number 2, wild Alaskan salmon. Wild Alaskan salmon earns its place near the top for one reason: targeted protection without overload, exactly what an older body needs. After 60, inflammation becomes quieter but more dangerous. It no longer shows up as dramatic pain. It shows up as vascular stiffness, joint wear that won't calm down, and subtle cognitive fatigue. Salmon addresses all three when it's the right kind. The key word here is wild. Wild Alaskan salmon contains a balanced, biologically appropriate dose of EPA and DHA, the omega-3 fats most directly linked to reduced vascular inflammation and improved brain resilience. These fats help stabilize arterial walls, reduce inflammatory signaling in joints, and support neuronal membranes that are increasingly vulnerable with age. But unlike large predatory fish, salmon sits lower on the food chain. That means far less mercury and far less neurological burden. You get the benefits without asking your liver and brain to fight a toxic load afterward. There's also something salmon provides that almost no other fish does at meaningful levels: astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is a powerful antioxidant that protects cells from oxidative damage, especially in the brain and blood vessels. It acts like cellular armor, reducing the oxidative stress that accelerates aging-related decline. This is one reason salmon is consistently associated with better cognitive stability in older adults. Salmon also delivers vitamin D, a nutrient many seniors quietly lack. Adequate vitamin D supports bone strength, immune regulation, and muscle coordination, all essential for maintaining independence. But boundaries matter. This is not a fish to eat heavily processed, fried, or drowned in sauces. Gentle cooking preserves its protective properties and prevents inflammation from undoing the benefit. Grilled lightly, baked at low heat. Simple seasoning. When used this way, wild Alaskan salmon becomes less like a health food and more like precision nutrition, calming inflammation, supporting circulation, and protecting the brain without forcing the body to compensate. That's why it ranks number 2. Number 1, sardines. This is the fish most people overlook, and the one an older body is best equipped to handle. Sardines sit at the very bottom of the marine food chain. That detail isn't trivial. It determines how much toxic burden the fish carries and how much stress your body absorbs after eating it. Because sardines are small and short-lived, they do not bioaccumulate mercury the way larger, longer-lived fish do. For adults over 60, this matters enormously. The brain and liver simply don't clear heavy metals as efficiently as they once did. With sardines, there is no hidden neurological cost, but safety alone wouldn't earn this spot. Sardines are one of the most nutrient-dense, neurologically supportive foods available to seniors. They deliver EPA and DHA omega-3s in a form that aging cells actually use, supporting arterial flexibility, reducing inflammatory signaling, and stabilizing neuronal membranes that become more vulnerable with age. This is the kind of fat the older nervous system recognizes as restorative, not irritating. They also provide vitamin B12 in highly bioavailable form. B12 is essential for nerve conduction, red blood cell formation, and oxygen delivery to the brain. Low B12 in seniors often shows up as fatigue, imbalance, or subtle memory issues, problems that are frequently mislabeled as normal aging. Sardines help correct that quietly and effectively. Then there's the mineral profile. When eaten with the bones, sardines supply natural calcium and vitamin D together, a pairing that supports bone integrity, muscle contraction, and balance. These systems don't fail independently. Weak bones, slow muscle signaling, and impaired balance tend to collapse together. Sardines reinforce all three without stressing digestion. There's no illusion here, no restaurant myth, no marketing story. Sardines don't look impressive. They don't come as thick steaks. They don't pretend to be luxury food. They simply work with an older metabolism, an aging brain, and a cardiovascular system that needs support, not strain. That's why sardines aren't just the safest fish after 60. They are the most biologically compatible. This is the fish your body still knows how to use, fully, efficiently, and without consequence. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. After 60, food doesn't work the same way anymore. Not because your body is failing, but because it has become more selective. The margin for error is smaller. What once felt harmless can now quietly contribute to inflammation, vascular strain, or neurological stress over time. The difference between the worst fish and the best fish isn't the ocean. It's how an older nervous system and circulatory system respond to what you eat. One choice adds burden, the other supports repair. You don't need perfection. You don't need fear. You need clarity and the confidence to choose what works with your body now. If this helped you see food through a more honest, senior-specific lens, subscribe to this channel. I focus on practical, evidence-based guidance that protects the brain, the heart, and long-term independence, without hype and without guessing. And before you go, tell me in the comments, which fish do you eat most often right now? And did any of today's choices surprise you? Awareness is the first correction.